Honorable Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Razak, Rector of the International Islamic University Malaysia, Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris bin Ismail, Deputy Rector of Academic and Internationalization, respected University Management Committee, Deans, Directors, Senior Officials and staff of IIUM, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all. Honorable Rector, brothers and sisters, in order to invoke the blessing of the Almighty, please allow me to start the program this morning by inviting Ustaz Abdul Khair bin Jalil, Head of Imam and Dakwah Unit, Office of IIUM Shah Mosque, to recite Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 97 to 100. Fayatafaddal mashkur.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين توفاهم الملائكة ظالمي أنفسهم قالوا فيم كنتم قالوا كنا مستضعفين في الأرض قالوا ألم تكن أرض الله واسعة فتهاجروا فيها فأولئك مأواهم جهنم وساءت مصيرا. إلا المستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان لا يستطيعون حيلة ولا يهتدون سبيلا. فأولئك عسى الله أن يعفو عنهم وكان الله عفوا غفورا. ومن يهاجر في سبيل الله يجد في الأرض مراغما كثيرا وسعة ومن يخرج من بيته مهاجرا إلى يدركه الموت فقد وقع أجره على وكان الله غفورا رحيما صدق الله العظيم.
Shukran Jazilan, Ustaz Abdul Khair, for the beautiful recitation. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now enjoy a video of IIUM in 2020.
And I would like to contextualize this meeting today is what we call celebrating IIUM 2020.
Hari ini, Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan dilaksana di seluruh negara bagi mengekang penularan COVID-19.
Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan mulai 18 Mac 2020 iaitu lusa hingga 31 Mac 2020 di seluruh negara.
Let me reassure you, as far as I am concerned, the situation in the university is well under control.
Universiti Islam Antarabangsa Malaysia (IIUM) menghasilkan prototipe robot yang boleh membantu doktor berdepan dengan pesakit dengan membuat saringan dari jarak jauh. Robot yang diberi nama Medibot dibangunkan pakar robotik kuliah kejuruteraan dan kuliah teknologi maklumat komunikasi. Dilengkapi alat kawalan jauh bervisual, doktor berinteraksi dengan pesakit tanpa perlu bersemuka.
Pasukan khas ini terdiri daripada pencarah, pentadbir dan pelajar yang tinggal dan menginap di kampus Gombak. PPE yang dihasilkan akan dihantar ke Pusat Perubatan IIUM di Kuantan Pahang dan lain-lain hospital yang akan dikenalpasti oleh Malaysian Relief Agency MRA.
Sementara itu, Universiti Islam Antarabangsa Malaysia (IIUM) mencatat sejarah sebagai institusi pengajian tinggi pertama di negara ini tersenarai sebagai finalis untuk 2 penganugerahan lestari antarabangsa. 2 anugerah itu adalah anugerah Green Gown antarabangsa dalam kategori institusi lestari terbaik dunia dan anugerah memanfaatkan masyarakat menerusi program Light.
Islam and Muslims in the world.
Anugerah ini merupakan pengiktirafan bagi universiti untuk membuat satu perubahan atas kepakaran yang telah diiktiraf oleh bangsa-bangsa bersatu dalam hal ini.
Kit yang kami hasilkan atau kit kami ialah kit pantas atau dipanggil rapid test kit menggunakan teknologi iaitu nanoteknologi.
Thank you once again, and I look forward to working with you closely for the year 21, 22 and beyond, and I hope we can come together in a more cohesive way after this when we start looking at the roadmap 2021 to 2022 and also taking other initiatives like the Sejahtera Academic Framework and other things that will come by as we move forward in trying to understand what the future will be like.
Alhamdulillah, even though with the COVID-19, IIUM has been very busy and very significant indeed. I would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone, and I'm sure all of us are happy and excited to join our first Al-Liqa Al-Jamaie for the year 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, now without further ado, I would like to respectfully invite Honorable Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Razak, Rector of IIUM, to deliver his speech.
Thank you very much, Sister Ernie. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. La haula wala quwwata illa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Professor Faris is now with me, the only one who seems to be here with me. The rest I don't know where they are, but alhamdulillah, I know you're somewhere around. Welcome, members of UMC, brothers and sisters. Indeed, on this blessed Friday morning, we are fortunate to be able at least to talk to one another in the tradition of the rector conveying some of the messages that we need to do in the year 2021. I am indeed very grateful and alhamdulillah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this opportunity, and not only that, for blessing us in the year 2020. As mentioned, although 2020 is a very remarkable, unusual, very unique year, but inshallah, as you've seen from the video, the small video that we have made for you, there are many things that we can learn from, and there are many things that we can be grateful for that will guide us into the future beginning this year, the year 2021. Now, this year is rather unusual for me as well. My presentation will not be the usual presentation where I kind of give my thoughts on this, but this is a mixture of thoughts of everybody else. And therefore, I'm just a spokesman for this group of people, right from the deputy rectors, the executive directors, and certainly the lecturers and students who have contributed so much for the year 2020 that I'm trying to capture as much as possible our contribution together as a collective contribution to the university in the year 2020. And hopefully, this will be the platform that we will carry forward from the year 2021 onwards, that we work together as a collective team, as a family, as it were, and demonstrate that we can do even better if we work together. So this joint presentation, as it were, I call it the COVID edition because I want to stay in memory that this is something that we have not expected, something that we have worked together in the way we know how, but alhamdulillah, the way it turns out brilliantly, even better than what we have had, I think, in the last 2 years, at least from my presentation in the Al-Liqa. So it will be a kind of a presentation that I have seek permission from everybody that I'm going to steal some of their work and put it there. If you see, it looks like yours, then it is yours. Yeah. So I may make some change here to streamline it with the other presentation, but otherwise I acknowledge all these works are yours, and therefore we hopefully can use this when we talk to other people around the world, or even within ourselves, when we cascade this whole idea of what 2021, 2022 will look like, right? So there you are. I thought the coronavirus is supposed to move. Somehow or other, it doesn't move this time. Dah mati kot. Last night it was moving cheerfully. Anyway, let me start off by Armi. There you are. Okay. Let me start off by changing the metaphor a little bit. I think for the last 2 years, when we talk about change, I always use this metaphor of climbing hills, climbing mountains, which peaks we want to conquer. Yeah? On reflection, I thought that it's not a good metaphor because climbing mountains are not easy, particularly for those who are fainted-hearted, the climbing hills. I might as well not go. I would rather stay at the foot of the hill. Let these buggers climb so that I can be spared, So, but then we don't get this collective team working together. So I said, well, why don't I look at something else? And perhaps running around the field, we have got the field. This could be a stadium Saidina Hamzah, but it is not. But it could have been. I mean, we can all run around the field, and I think many more people could, including the OKUs, they can also use this. So in other words, this metaphor is for everybody. And I then would want to translate this from the year 2019, where we start from the starting point at year 2019. And I think all of us has run to the field, and 22 years later, sounds like 20 years, 2 years later, we are back to our starting point. And therefore, in the year 2021, we're going to run around the field again, right? So all the experiences of running around the field for the last 2 years could be repeated. That's another advantage, yeah? The terrain is the same. It is not much different. If you compare climbing the mountain, the terrain is different all the time. And therefore, you may not want to, to venture into this because the stuff is difficult, it's new, and you need to change again and again. Here, I think we can use the past two years' experience, and I think there are a lot of things that we can learn. and run around the field again, this time maybe with a greater speed, better coordination, and more systematic, right? So I'm going to use this as a metaphor that each time when you go to Saidina Hamzah Stadium, you will look at the field and you say, okay, how do I transact this year, 2021, and moving forward, all right? Just a small background, this is where we started in 2019. We talk about the roadmap, we talk about leading the way, we took in Maqasid Ash-Sharia and SDG and put it together. I want to emphasize this, both of these must come together. One, I think, supporting the other. And yesterday we had this webinar organized by ISTEC. Congratulations to ISTEC. I think we have got more than 800 participants and I think more than 200 questions being posted. So I requested Dr. Tamim to sort out all these questions. We can look at them and we know now what are the issues that we need to address as a university moving forward. All right. So that is I think the indication that what we do is probably has got a lot of interest, and it ranges. I think there are more than 8 countries, including developed countries, at the same time listening in and posting questions as far as this idea of humanizing university, maqasid, and sustainable development is concerned. So I think we have got a starting point, which is good. And we want to now translate this. Again, this is something that we are used to. Just to remind you, nothing has changed in the last 2 years. We're carrying it forward. We want to create this balanced staff, balanced student. Yeah, we want to create a society or a community that is value-based and very, very sensitive to our well-being in a societal sense, not just individual. All right. We want to create a self-sustaining university and a campus. This is something that I think we are now beginning to learn from COVID environment. If you don't sustain yourself, then probably our rate of survival will be even lower. How do you research on this? At the end of the day, how do you become relevant globally in the context of Rahmatan lil Alamin? Yeah? So we have taken the word humanizing education, and I just want to re-emphasize, it is humanizing education. It is not humanism or all those kind of stereotypes that we've heard. There's something that we have redefined ourselves. When you go into the Sejahtera academic framework, the operational definition is there so that we don't get confused with the definition that other people want to give or use. We have got our own definition, and therefore we want to pursue it in our own way in realizing it. Not using other people's agenda, not using other people's interpretation. It is our interpretation rooted on the Maqasid Ash-Sharia and sustainable development, certainly the Quran and the Hadith being the core of all this, right? So here we are, and how do you then move into the new year? I just want to give this very quickly to those of you who have not been participating or who have just joined the university, just to run down very quickly what we do in the year 2019 and how do we start. I think we start off with, I must recognize the Kuliah of Engineering, the ex-dean is here, that I think that makes the whole thing kind of feasible from my point of view. As I walk into the Kuliah for the first time, not knowing what to expect, suddenly the Kuliah of Engineering becomes very, very welcoming to me and gives a lot of confidence in trying to talk about what we want to do. And the first thing we identify is that we want to break down the silos. Yeah? Whether the silos exist in our mind or physically, it doesn't matter. But at least I detected we are not working together despite the word integration being used quite often at that particular time. Yeah. So you can look at one silos as one Kuliah. Within one Kuliah, there's also the segmentation of divisions and units and whatever, and sometimes very individualistic in its work. So we use this to break the silos and to create alternatively an inter-Kuliah platform using sustainable development as the concept that allows people to work across boundaries and so on and so forth. We adopted what we call the tetrahedron model that looks at everything is interfaced and interconnected with one another in terms of knowledge, science, non-science, humanities, social science, religious studies, and whatever else I think needs to be worked on that kind of connectivity with the foundation, what we call transformation of the human being and also its community. That is the ultimate as far as this university is concerned. How do you transform to be a better human being? How do you transform to create better quality of life? And how do you transform also to create better communities? And in our terms, as far as the vision is concerned, we talk about the betterment of human quality and civilization. A very honorable statement, but it's very challenging for us to move forward unless we work together. Yeah? So we introduce this and bring in the word transdisciplinarity as far as working together among ourselves in context of knowledge. We kind of adopted the song as our tagline and talk about Khalifah, Amanah, culture of Ikram and Rahmatan lil Alamin, and later on was created by some of our brothers and sisters and say it should be Khair. And again, this down becomes a word that everybody used it, and I think has a lot of meaning to remind us not only we are leaders, but we are leaders in a good, positive, and also constructive way as a framework to move forward. Yeah. So that's some of the write-ups that we do, and I think after that we also look at what is this garden of knowledge and virtue is all about. We talk about Surah Ibrahim 24-27, how we are rooted, and if you are not rooted, we can easily be shaken or fall depending on the kind of environment that we are in. And indeed, I think there are pictures to this effect. Yeah? But we want the garden to be a meaningful garden. We want the garden to be a source of knowledge. We also want the garden to be an inspirational garden. In other words, whatever happens in the environment, ecologically, it affects us as a human being because we are part of that ecology. This environment, this garden is not something which is strange. It's not something that we need to ignore. It's something that we need to work with and live with so that knowledge becomes more meaningful in its own context. Right? So we have our own roadmap, and the roadmap talk about the whole institutional transformation as a strategy. In other words, go back to this interrelationship between people working together, institutions working together, and making ideas work as far as people sharing ideas and thoughts as a university should be. We make some changes. Yeah, one of the changes is to move into communication. How can we better communication? Not only communication, how do you advocate? Some of these ideas I think are very pristine to the university, very unique. We need to advocate to other institutions around the world, and how do you make this happen so that change can come very easily when other people are aware of what we do. We also changed the strategy of the office, that now we have OSIC that looks at how to plan ahead in terms of making the change happen in a total or in a holistic sense. Yeah? We've got knowledge for change and advancement. In other words, we use knowledge as the modus operandi for change, rather than just using it for exams or for things like that. We want to make this as the root source for change, and we also create what we call responsible research, basically working with the people on the ground to make sure that research remains relevant, and that relevancy is translated into what we call community engagement. That is also the other office for the deputy rector, to student development and community engagement. And that has been, I think, the broad base of the kind of strategy that we adopt. All right. Out of this, we have got now 29 flagships, which is a new trajectory forward. In other words, this flagship became a source of inspiration of what the changes would be like, because it involves the people on the ground, the student, the staff, and other community members that works with us. And therefore, the community is a living community rather than a community that is, fossilized in a way that talks only about certain things, but not connecting with one another. So these flagships are the one, I think, that gives us a lot of inspiration. And then we also bring in the elements of community engagement, the elements of sustainable development, and also the Makasih Asyariah, the 4 pillars of learning of UNESCO, which is now 5 pillars. We also the falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan. All these are mixed up so that the understanding of knowledge is relevant to all community in all contexts. It could be local, it could be international, it could be religious, it could be science, it could be whatever other knowledge, including indigenous knowledge as such. Yeah? That becomes the mainstay of the university. And that now, I think, is translated into what we call humanizing education for the year 2030, 10 years ahead, where we share many things, the vision, the aspiration, working together, and so on and so forth. And hence, the COVID comes in, and we say it's COVID learning. In other words, how do you share? How do you work together with the community? And how do you volunteer some of your efforts or your wisdom or ideas to make this sharing more meaningful? Yeah? So we want to repurpose education. In other words, turn us to be a better human being, make us a better Muslim, and also create better environment to make sure that the vision of the university becomes more realizable in that particular context. Yeah? To be very quick about it, because people were talking about ranking and so on and so forth, we have decided not to use ranking because there are issues that I think it is quite pertinent as far as the mission of the university is concerned. We took another benchmark. There is a United Nations university. There are only 5 of this university. The one that works on RCE, or Education for Sustainable Development, is based in Tokyo, and we work through them and see how we can arrive at a kind of an international benchmark so that we are not seen to be, a university that has no relevance because we don't join ranking the league tables and so on and so forth. Yeah? That becomes the first quote-unquote ambition as far as I'm concerned. If we can meet that standards, and I think we can break our mindset, we all will break the ceiling that is holding us back for a long while, I think we can move forward. Yeah. So we work very hard, and we promise ourselves, I think, in June 2020, we will arrive at this benchmark. And alhamdulillah, I think we arrived earlier, but not knowing before that, that the year 2020 will be a kind of a traumatic year for us. Suddenly, the 18th of March, I think the 18th of March is a day to remember. We are supposed to officiate, I remember, the Gambang campus. Sri Paduka Baginda yang di-Pertuan Agong is ready to launch it, and suddenly there is this lockdown for the first time. We do not know what this lockdown means. Yeah, everybody was trying to adjust to it, and this is because of some invisible organism moving around that we have not known what it is all about. Yeah, we thought we can manage it. We thought it's just like another virus that comes and goes. But no, we are told that he's going to stay here for a long time. So for the next, I think, easily 3 years, there is the period that we are talking about. You have to talk about this virus in anything that we do, in anything that we plan, in anything that we say. You cannot talk about anything without taking this guy into consideration, whether we like it or not. So these are issues that I think that are now clear to us, but it is not only an issue that reminds us of what we need to do, but it also reminds us of the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in reminding us that we are, as the surah that was read, I love the surah, are we really weak and oppressed that we cannot move out? We will be questioned. I read that one, I got a little bit panicky, Are you really weak and oppressed that you cannot move in the space that Allah has provided us? And just stay locked down and say, it is PKP, man, I cannot do anything. I just want to sit home and do work from home and think that we can get away with it. Probably we will not. Yeah. And plus we have got not WFH, our is WFA. And then we probably be reminded. Now we'll say yours is WFA, not WFH. What have you been doing? So I think these are issues that we need to come to terms with. These are real issues. These are not just man-made issues. And how do you then move forward if you are not really oppressed and the weak? I think we are not oppressed and the weak the way it is worded in the Quran, if I can understand it properly, right? So in trying to manage this, we have you in our mind to start off with. We have been doing this with the Sejahtera Council, have been working magnificently, particularly at the operational level. We've been alerted if there's any issues. We sit down, we talk about it, weekends, day and night. We will talk about how to save the university. And alhamdulillah, my statement that was recorded at that time was real. Yeah, we managed to remain green, we managed to remain clean, and we managed to remain healthy. There are issues here and there, but overall, I think we are able to get good advice from our colleagues from Kuantan, particularly Professor Hafiz. He seems to be very draconian at times. Dia kata jangan datang campus, nobody wants to go and fight with it. But these, I think, the reality of it. We take our work seriously, and we think we have done well in preserving the campus and also making our life a little bit tolerable given whatever that is happening within the campus. Yeah, but that cannot be managed anymore because this, as you know, the virus now has gone to the community. There are clusters after clusters. I think the last numbers, if I heard correctly, last night were 3,000, I think, cases, and that cases is rising. And whether we like it or not, the campus will be affected. And therefore, the Sejahtera Council is working on what we call a COVID-19 alert system. Yeah, this is now work in progress. Inshallah, by September the 1st, we will announce the details of it. But generally, there is 4 levels of 4 tiers. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. We would want to avoid number 3 and number 4. Yeah, this is where it becomes almost probably uncontrollable in terms of numbers, in terms of space, in terms of even the manpower and finances. So we want to go into level 1 and level 2. And I want to remind all of us that this is something serious. I just got note that some students are not cooperative enough. When they are asked to do swabs, they don't do swab. And I just want to remind all of us, you are violating some of the laws of the country, and I will not hesitate to report this to the police. And if the police wants to take you away because you have violated a rule, because you have also put us in harm's way, I will do that. Yeah. So let's be mindful that it is serious. It is something to do with life and death. And if we don't do this well, all of us will be affected. The name of the university will be affected. And I think there's no compromise as far as that's concerned. So while I was doing this, I was coming out, I remember 7-Up. I was trying to do 7-Up, but I only got 6-Up. And this is my 6-Up. First of all, mask up. You got this mask, when you need to wear the mask, you wear this mask. No questions about it. Yeah, wash up, be clean, not only your hands, but everything else that you are associated with. Your environment, your utensils or whatever, you need to wash them to be clean. Yeah, line up means keep your distance, 1 meter, 2 meter, whatever the requirements is. Yeah, and I make critical comments in the mosque. In the mosque, we are all lined up. We maintain our distance. But the moment we go out and pick our slippers, those distances do not matter anymore, right? And as such, I choose to pray outside of the mosque so that I don't have to jostle with you and trying to get my slippers. Yeah. So there's these 2 double standards. Dalam masjid satu standard, luar masjid satu standard is not acceptable. I think we need to lift up to the standards that we want to do. And I just recommended, and I hope they will do this, that we now take our slippers in. Bring a plastic, take your slippers in and put it beside you. After all, beside you is empty anyway. Right? So that when you moved up, you still maintain the distance. And I was told Kuantan has done this because Kuantan said it's part of the SOP. Kalau Kuantan boleh buat, mengapa Gombak tak boleh buat? Yeah? It's the same campus. We need to go into one standards in making sure that we are preserving the health of the campus. Yeah, I hope when the MCO is up, the PKP is up, we go back to this line up thing. Shut up. Shut up means don't say whatever that needs not to be said. And there's a fake news and stuff like that. Yesterday, I got another complaint that one of our staff made some stupid comment somewhere without any backing of evidence. And I think the ministry has got onto this and they say, can you remove this? So we are a responsible citizen. We are an educated citizen. If you want to say something, I say go ahead, but make sure you said it in a very academic way, well thought out, with evidence and so on and so forth, not just to shoot our mouth and make the university into a kind of a limbo, right? So shut up means think of what you want to say, especially in social media. You may be angry with somebody else, that's fine, but don't make the university a scapegoat for this, right? The university is more important than what we have to say if we don't have anything to do, to say good about the university. Wake up means be alert of what's happening around us. Things change in a moment or two, be it political, be it social, be it economic, and certainly be it health, right? This variants species are coming up. I just heard the news, Kenya has got one. I don't know whether we have got one either. So we need to be alert, right? And last but not least, despite all this, cheer up, man. Make some, I don't know how else, but laughter is the best medicine, okay? So be cheerful so that you don't get into a kind of a depressive mood, particularly students when you need to be locked up, yeah? Do whatever it needs to do so that we remain healthy, we remain spiritually vibrant, and we can do whatever we need to do because we're still in the service of somebody else. Yeah, as a student, I think we still need to serve the community. If we are well into this, I think we can do better so that we don't become the victims rather than we become the people who extend our services in the context of community engagement and so on and so forth. So this is as much as the university doing. I will promise you, yeah, that we will look after the university the best that we could so that we can be the shining example of what IIUM is all about to the world. And alhamdulillah, I think this is just a repeat, just to remind us, when we talk about leading the way, we really want to lead the way. In other words, we want to be making some waves so that other people will follow, all right? So we have talked about the Greater Gombak. I think you know about this. We've talked about the institution of the year for the year 2020, the best there is in the world then. We are waiting for a letter, an official letter from Unesco, so that we can also be hosting this UNESCO chair for future studies. We have already been given the candidature year 2020. It's a question of officially designating us for this. And we, in fact, have been invited to participate in the UNESCO Futures Literacy Summit in Paris 2020. The first time we have got a booth that is all virtual in nature. Yeah, I think you saw the video just now of what we are doing. So we are in a good sort of position moving forward, and we talk about leading the way. We are actually leading the way in a particular sense, right? We thought that was the end, but alhamdulillah, God is kind and very, very kind in this particular respect, that we are given more than what we bargained for. Yeah, so we've got this Greater Gombak designation as a regional centers of expertise, only 175. I think we are the youngest in this particular respect, yet we are quite dominant, although we've just been designated a year ago. Yeah, we have redefined everything. We talk about Greater Gombak. It's not a geographical location, it is a functional location, and therefore Greater Gombak now includes Kuantan, Pagoh, and also Gambang, all right? So if we can go up to Pagoh and Kuantan, I don't see why we cannot go up to Perlis and even Singapore. We will move, yeah, in terms of function, and indeed some of the activities now has covered Perlis, Kedah, and other places in Johor, like Tanjung Piai, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so these are the area of work that we need to do, and there's a lot more that we can do if we want to cross borders into other countries, certainly. Yeah, but the more exciting thing is that we want to test the ground and see whether we deserve this or it's just by chance, right? So I think we work very hard. People want to take some of this flagship, the 29 flagships that we got, we assess, and we say, well, this 11 probably can be tested and see whether we are in the right path or not. So I think we submitted this, particularly the Sejahtera Center and Development Office. I think they work overtime on this. and we submitted 11 and we won 8 out of 11. I think more than 2/3, okay? If my maths is correct, right? And that 2/3 is broken down, as I've mentioned in the video. 2 of them are considered outstanding, right? 3 is honorable mention, and the other 3 is what we call acknowledged flagship. Now, I bring you back to the idea of how we work together beyond silos, and this is the outcome. In other words, we can convince ourselves the moment we decide to work together on an idea and work closely together, exchanging ideas, and certainly the outcome is very good. And I think this is part of the celebrating 2020 as a closure. We got this news, I think, just middle of last month, and that is a good closure for 2020. And alhamdulillah, I think we need to be grateful, and we need to work more, and we need to make this happen as a matter of habit, not a matter of chance. So in the year 2021, I've already sent down the signal. We need to have at least 8, if not more. And I think we can do this from the kind of istidamah we had the last just 2 days. And I think the students are up in arms with this. I will talk to you a little bit about. So there are good things that's lying in front of us. And let's decide together now on this Friday morning that we're going to go and make this happen again. After all, it's running around the field. It's not climbing hills anymore. So we can run down the fields better than climbing these hills or the mountain that we have started. If you take whatever that other things, I think this the Halal Excellent Award won by Inhad. The one on the left side is supposed to be the Khawarizmi Award that was shown in the video. So we put them together. Actually, in last year alone, we won 12 international awards. That is one a month, you know. And I think there is something that we need to keep in mind. Next year, can we do another once a month? There's a big challenge, but yeah, I think we can do it, inshallah. Maybe we can do 2 a month. We'll see 24 and see how. But we need to start now. If you want to start, if you want to do 2 a month, I think we need to start now. We cannot do it and on the last minute. So that's one of the other things. So now we are here. We are now into the field. Probably it's the same field, but the only difference is that we have got now people looking at us. The first picture was almost empty. We are running on our own. People couldn't care less, you know. These people may not win anyway. That's what they say. But in the year 2021, the field is different. I mean, it's just metaphorically, yeah. All eyes are on us, yeah. And this is literally so. People are contacting us, asking us when they can visit us, how we can collaborate, what we can learn from them, and so on and so forth. And this invitation is almost endless, yeah. I am up to my eyeball on this, and therefore I want to share this with you, so that some of you now can also take the stage and run the field. I cannot run the field anymore. Okay, so next 2 years we need to plan. All right, how do you run the field and want appreciation, recognition, and if prizes there is, okay, yeah, and there is this word Greater Gombak there, which is another flagship in itself. Right, there's Greater Gombak has already got its own network, and this network is something that we need to leverage and move forward. Okay, so that is the field that we need to work out. Put this picture in your mind, yeah, and anything that you want to do, just flag on this picture again. I'm going to run this field now. What do I do so that I can also impress other people that we in this university is deserving and has a capacity to do what we want to do? That's the stage that we have created for ourselves, and that's the stage that we need to sort of perform and dazzle the world in far as IIUM is concerned. So I'm going to talk about passing the baton. In other words, beginning this year, we're going to pass this baton to as many people who wants to run and make the university known to other people. Yeah. So I've got 3 type of pictures. One is, the real sportsman. You can see that, yeah? And the muscle and stuff like that, and the green field where they run. These are the real professional people who knows what they are doing. They are already up there, and I think they can easily run, right? The other one is perhaps people like me, who doesn't know how to run also. but yet wants to try and run. Well, we can try, and then whatever we are good at, we will do this. Yeah? But generally, the central picture is everybody can run. Everybody who wants to run can run and pass the baton to one another. So I think it's a question of sharing. How do we share the little experiences we've got with other people so that everybody can participate at the same time, and we can now become the leaders in leading the way. All right. So this running is about leading the way to win the prizes, or to capture imagination. Sometimes there's no prizes, but people will be amazed at the way we do things. Yeah. But we need to do this in a very trustworthy way. And this is where we come back to the whole idea of values, the garden of virtues, and the garden of knowledge and virtues. Because in the baton that you want to pass, you don't want to have a spike on it. All right, you want to make sure that the baton is the baton that is clean, that will take you wherever you want to go, but you don't want to have these spikes on it. The moment you have spikes on the baton, that's it. Whoever takes the baton will not be able to run. And I think that's where the self-judgments comes in. Yeah, and these spikes can be in a many symbolic way. In a many symbolic way that I don't have to spell it out. I think you know what it means. Yeah? Are we serious about this? Or are we just doing this for fun? Or are we doing this just because, the rector asked me to do this, I'm not interested. If you are not interested, then you just tell, I'm not interested. You can give it to somebody else, right? We want people who are really committed to this, so that this verse that keep on coming to my head now, whether we are really the weak and the oppressed, that we cannot do much, or are we still able to do this and run the space that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Yeah. So that is one caution that I want to say. If you want to take part in a university, be mindful that it is part of the amanah, or what's called the rahmatan lil alamin, that we need to transverse over the next 2 years or hopefully beyond. All right. The other version of passing the baton is this. I think you know the characters. I'm just trying to hide the characters. I put on the mask for them. Yeah, this mask is my mask. That guy who ran the other way around has got this mask on his eyes. And that's why I think he runs a different way. All right. Are we running back to where we were? Yeah. And he will say, let's make this country great again. But he's running in a different direction. I don't know whether he can make IIUM great by running in a different direction with this COVID virus around us. These are for us to consider whether you want to go back to where you were. And actually, at the end of the day, it's not about America, it's about me and I. Right? And when you look at what's happening to America now, it's about an individual, it's about a person, it's about his own ambition. It's not about the country. The country so happened to be there. In final analysis, when he's finally impeached, it's about him. It's not about other people. I think the analysis that I heard last night from all the Americans, they were wondering, how come these people get out of the whole system that is supposed to be robust, mature, and democratic? And that's a big question mark that we need to ask our university. Do we have this kind of people around that actually works for themselves rather than the university and pretend that they work for the university as such? I hope there's none. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're going to run back to our comfort zone, and that's why I changed the metaphor from a mountain to a field, so that you don't feel that you are threatened and you want to go back to your comfort zone. I think the comfort zone is the one that's calling us back. Last year it wasn't, the previous year it wasn't so difficult as this. I can still do this and do whatever reason you want to do. But no, the university wants to move into a different position. When we talk about South, we are talking about a new learning environment, a new learning ecosystem, and that needs to be created. In other words, we need to move from your comfort zone. What you are used to, that may not work anymore as you move forward. Right? So there are pressure points, there are many things that you need to contend with, and that's a challenge of the university. If universities don't have a pressure point, then I think we are not a university. We may be something else. Yeah? It could be a spa or something else. But the university must contend with its pressure points, must contend with the pains, must contend with the change, yeah? Must contend with the difference. Yeah? And this is what I think that we want to look at. Are we moving into the direction that we want to set for ourselves, or are we moving backward, cascading backwards? And that is what I think my worry is. Yeah? The moment you move backwards, you are going back to your silos. And I think we have no time to go back to our silos. We just dismantled the silos 2 years ago. We are not going to resurrect it. And worst thing in this context of the COVID environment, right? So I am determined, yeah, to pursue, to create a new learning space. I think we have gone halfway through with SAF and so on and so forth. We have broken the silos, yeah, and I think now there are enough illustration that we are moving into the new learning space, yeah. We have moved into an integrated interdisciplinary of thinking, and I think there are examples of this. We will show you the formative, the summative assessment. We have even gone into an area that's experimenting. At least I know a couple of courses, no exams. All right, that could be the new way of doing things. Exams may be outdated. Yeah, there are a number of works that were done that engage community and sometimes also transform community. That, in my mind, is moving into this new learning ecosystem. We've experimented, it works. Certainly, there's a long way to go, but it is not what we call impossible the way we used to imagine it at one time. Without the exam, nothing works. But here we can do without the exam. There are a lot more to go. I think we need now to work on this, bring in the research, yeah, and make sure that there are flagships and programs and courses that we want to do, the micro-credentials or whatever we are talking about, so that we can create the learning space, so that we can move out of our comfort zone, right? And one of the examples that I'm going to use is our discussion just 2 days ago when they talk about Unicode UNGS 1201, all right? To me, that small discussion we have got for three hours, I think, does demonstrate, and I'm quite convinced that we are into a transformative way of educating, moving into the direction of sustainable development with Kamakasi that will redefine eventually this learning space, and this learning space will grow, will be part and parcel of the university's way of conducting itself, moving 21, 22, and hopefully beyond. Let me give you some details on this, and this is where I borrowed a number of this. When they looked at, it is just one semester, yeah? Prof. Faris will probably know better than this. One semester when we do this Unicode, and it is, I think, done by a group of volunteers. I was told many academics who are already fulfilling their teaching hours still volunteer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and we are trying to find out how to recognize these people. They are the heroes that make this work, and so much so that the last count that we have got, there are now about 300 proposals that comes from the students to make sure that this UNGS 1201 works. That's the first numbers that really, I mean, when I did this in USM, when I got only 30 proposals. Here I've got 300 proposals. 30 proposals I'm grappling to do with it. Now we've got 300 proposals. What are we going to do with it? We cannot just push it aside because we are not ready. These are the students' work, students' ambition, students' aspiration that we need to put forward so that the new learning space can be real. Yeah. We were told that there is now a lot of diagnosis in terms of whether the sustainability issues in the campus could be made better. All right, and this I think is a on the ground kind of assessment from the student. We need to look at this and see what works, what do not work. All right. We were told that about hundreds of videos and posters on YouTube, I'm not good at it, but certainly on the internet, there are many of this. And I was shown one yesterday, and these are done by students voluntarily again, as part and parcel of the UNGS 1201. 1201 is a good number. Now, maybe I will buy this number. IIUM 1201. Okay, so there you are. I mean, this is alone a very exciting data. I hope this data is verified, and certainly it would be. Yeah, we have got hundreds of reflective journals and websites and blogs. The students begin to write voluntarily, or sometimes, part of the courses being encouraged by their staff. Yeah, this 60 staff that we talked about, and they are writing what they feel. I mean, it's for the first time, I guess, that the students are expressing their thoughts as far as the courses in IIUM is concerned. Formerly, they probably will stock it behind your back, in the canteen, in the toilets, and say, this courses is lousy, that courses is good, and so on. Here now, they're sharing with everybody else. And this becomes a very remarkable feedback, very open, very transparent, that we can use this to improve the university and to make it better. And last but not least, I think there are at least 12 published articles, right? And we are now thinking of how do you use this magnificent information that comes almost voluntarily. And this is just one semester, mind you. Yeah, one semester at its infancy. Imagine this 5 years from now. I think this will be part and parcel of the new learning space that we talked about. People want to run to their comfort zone. They're welcome, but they're going to miss all this. Okay. So what are the examples? Just to show you. Yeah. These are some of the examples. These are some of the posters that the students do. Kuliah Economy was just talking to me yesterday. They're going to organize a roundtable discussion on the 19th about circular economy. Hey, the students has put this up. Yeah, I don't know whether they will join the circular economy, but there you are. There is an expression of ideas of what they think the circular economy is all about. I don't think they've gone into the kuliah in full swing as far as economy is concerned, but in the first semester, they're already taking up ideas like that. Yeah, it's okay not to be okay. I think which is a good statement. Just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, it's almost like a word of wisdom coming again from the Salam corner of IIUM. Yeah, stop the stigma. Take a brain break. Be kind to yourself or your mind. Support mental health awareness. One of the programs at the university is trying hard to make it happen. This comes from the students, right? And I think the artwork also looks very, very convincing and very, very creative. And I'm proud to say that this is part of my students' work. And when I go and do presentation internationally, I will certainly use some of this. These are posters. These are letters to the editors, to the newspaper, the Sun, Berita Harian, and I cannot know the other one. Think about education for disabilities too. And they'll get these hundreds of this. The students are writing on their own, all right? We have got our own IIUM berhujah, but that is we created. This one they created in their own. I think we should be proud of what our students can do the moment you open up the space, empower them to do, and they've taken this almost like duck to water, right? And I hope this will be something which is real. Yeah? There are more of these, I think this is their blogs, Sejahterakan IIUM, and this is talking about what we do. Yeah, there's names here, Alia Muhammad, congratulations, Nur Alia, I think the same person. I really am very excited about this. It's just that I do not know how to locate them, but the moment I can find them, inshallah, we will return to this. There are videos, yeah. The Walkway of Knowledge and Virtues. There you are, NGS 2012-01. Yeah, the SDG Forum, IIUM, SDG for IIUM. And these are the groups that are working on various programs and various things. Brothers and sisters, I think there is no better evidence than this. All right? Now, our responsibility in the university, how do you capture this? How do you recognize this? How do you make this part and parcel of the sharing of the new ecosystem so that students can begin to talk to one another, so that they can share ideas, so they can create something better out of this once they move together? I think that's a new platform that we have managed to create within the last 2 years, which is beyond my imagination. Hence, I think we are talking about what are the challenges that we need to look at. Yeah, One of the challenges certainly is how do you create support system, particularly the IT support system, particularly the system where students need some facilities to do things. And this again has been discussed at our UMC. How do you create a support system, including part and parcel of the facilities within the kuliah? How do you continue this momentum so that the students feel appreciated, so that the student knows that they are contributing? In our staff, we talk about the student as producers of knowledge, not just receiving knowledge. So like us, they also produce knowledge, and I think they already demonstrated they're capable of doing that. How do you make sure that this momentum goes on faster and better in that particular aspect? Yeah? How do you coordinate this? Imagine now there are 2,000 students, 2,000
per semester, every semester.
Yeah, you are. So 2,000 per semester, another 2,000 next semester, already 4,000. How do you coordinate this? I think none of us have got this experience. I think we need to move fast and create that sort of coordination. So we discussed yesterday, we need the editorial team, we need the business team, we need the recognizing. I think there are already discussion. Maybe we can bring it to the table as we moved in a little bit. Yeah. So the Ungas people are doing that. The name Ungas is also good. You know? They fly. I hope they'll fly. And they don't fly away lah. They fly and come back. But what is more important, I think, is to create a database. Yeah. We've been forward, and again, we are very lucky here. The library has been working on knowledge management for the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah, people like Sharifah, who is now retiring, but I think there are other people who are taking over from her, and we are going to create this database. All these 2,000 works of the student will be slotted somewhere into a fresh repository. So in other words, we are creating our own knowledge base, which is tacit, which is original in this form. And there's nothing can be better than that. Yeah, coming from the students, coming from their own experience. After all, the new approach is called international, intercultural, and experiential. This is what is going to be happening. Yeah. So we are looking at this database, and alhamdulillah, we also have got other issues that we can put this into. What other SDG has been touched by this thing, so that it could be another repository, a dashboard. I think Oza is working on it, on this SDG. What are the works that the students have put, and again, it could be shared worldwide in a global sense, right? So this is acknowledging ITD. They have worked on what they call this knowledge connectivity, and there are many of this. I just want to focus on number 3. I've changed Norbit from number 2 to number 3. I want to put in the center, so sorry, it took a number, but the content is the same. So we want to create now, I think they are doing this. How do you then work to make sure that this is a mobile kind of a repository that people can tap it from anywhere around the world? All right, and take it on to make it, to promote, to operationalize, to strengthen the knowledge-related activities, including governance, yeah, so that this knowledge can be accessible, maybe on open access, I don't know, we have not decided, but certainly it becomes a growing source of information that we can share with the world, coming originally from IIUM. I think this is a very exciting activities that will shape, I think, the profile of this university as we move along, if we do this well. So this is one activities that I think that all of us, and I want to give assurance to the student and the staff, the things that you produce will not be wasted. We will take care of it. We will make sure that it is assembled in the right way so that you can now be proud of what you've done and contribute to the university directly in that particular sense. Yeah? So given those things, we are also being recognized in different ways. This is something that we have not shouted, but we have been contacted, and we're working now. We have been contacted by United Nations Economic Social Commission for West Asia. West Asia, as you know, is now in a doldrum. They are trying to rebuild their university. They are trying to rebuild their international reputation for education. They were once good, yeah. Places like Iraq, and this is where the cradle of civilization has all now been destroyed. They want to recreate that. And Alhamdulillah, IIUM has been invited to join one of their projects, which is called the Academic Network for Development Dialogues, ANDD. We are one of the expert groups that talks about two things: sustainable development and foresight. Yeah. So some of our academics are there. This is part of passing the baton, that I hope they will work with this group of people and contribute what we have done to them. So this is why the repository, the things that we have done, at least we go into this kind of a community saying something that we have done originally that other people have not done. You know, we're just not there because we are Muslim, because we are international, because we are a member of a network. We are there because we are resourceful, we have got something to contribute, and we can make things work. And that is what passing the baton is all about. And we need to grow this, as many people as possible, so that they can contribute and move into this space of Allah Ta'ala has given us. We are not the oppressed, neither are we the weak. We want to create that. Yeah, so that we at least intellectually can do something, if not anything else, right? So this is one recognition that has come, and then a number else, but I will just concentrate on this one because it is new. I think we just had our second meeting from Beirut, as it were. Yeah. At the national level, we have just been contacted by Yadim. Yadim has tried to organize meeting twice. Tapi oleh soal COVID, we have to postpone it. The next meeting mungkin on the 21st agaknya. Yadim wants to learn about sustainable development and create a dakwah platform on sustainable development. Tu gambar di belakang. Yeah, I just try to copy that one. Yeah, ini dia punya gambar. Looks something like ours, but not quite. Yeah. And they want to learn from us, how do you move sustainable development as a platform for da'wah? So if you are still quarreling, that's why I'm saying this now, if you are still quarreling whether sustainable development is Islamic ataupun tidak, I know there's a discussion on it, yeah? But here there is an organization that wants to make it, quote unquote, a da'wah platform. What do we tell them? Do we tell them, oh, this is not Islamic, don't do this, you go and find something else? Or do we tell them more constructive things? Yeah. And if you look at the diagram, it's almost like our diagram, except that they're confused a little bit. Kita punya diagram pun kita kata maqasid di dalam and then SDG di luar, right? But I don't understand why suddenly maqasid itu di luar juga. Keturunan, harta, agama. So dia macam sandwich in between. This is what we need to understand. Maybe they've got a better concept than we do. Yeah. It has to be sandwiched like that. But this is the discussion that we need to have with them. But I'm already very excited that if Yadim recognize IIUM, although there are other universities who have done this before, well before us, but they come and approach us, there must be something that we have done right. Right? And I'm looking forward to do this, and I hope we can work with Yadim to create another da'wah platform talking about the elements that we have not talked about. Climate change, global warming, 4IR. These are the things that now are besetting our world, but we have nothing to say about this in a concrete terms. So I hope this will not. So these are the two examples that I want to share with you. But certainly there is an opportunity for us to move forward. Yeah. But all these things will not be possible if there is no framework. This is a framework. I think is coming to its end now. We're supposed to launch it next month, and I think this framework is almost finishing. I was told they are doing the final editing, but I just want to quote one paragraph that I think summarizes what this framework is all about. I know some of you have read it, some of you have not read it, but yet there are people who are making judgment over this framework. Yeah, so I want to just put that down. And read this particular paragraph. He said the Sejahtera academic framework is both old and new. I put the emphasis, yeah, both old and new. It is old in the sense that the core values of vision and mission of the university continue to be the bedrock. In other words, what was there in 1983 or even before will not change. The mission will not change. The vision will not change. Yeah, the aspiration will not change. The songs will not change. Nothing that contributes to the bedrock will change. That much assurance that I can give. But what will change and what is new, dia kata here, is that it weaves together the current and the future major agenda. All right, and this is where we go back to the issues that we're talking about, while demanding each and every one of us, both of individual and organizational level, to reflect our role and responsibility to move the university into the future. Into the future means you don't run backward like the cartoon I showed you, with your eye closed, right? That will not go into the future. You will go to somewhere else, but certainly not into the future. We need to move up front with our eyes and minds open so that we can play this role and responsibility to make sure that the university with the same intention remains relevant globally for the future. I think this paragraph summarizes many things and in fact, put it where it's supposed to be. This will come out, inshallah, but this will be still a tentative document in the sense that we want to get as many academics to read them. We will put it online. You can read them, you can criticize them, you can comment, and we'll take all these comments into consideration before we make it an official document through the Board of Governance and so on and so on and so forth. But the Board of Governance has given this its endorsement in principle anyway. Okay, that is a new learning environment, the learning ecosystem that I talked to you about. Yeah, at various levels, the foundation level, the undergraduate level, and also the postgraduate level. I think Prof. Faris will talk about this better than I do, but certainly all the elements, you can see the maqasid there, you can see the vision, you can see the mission, you can see all the structures, formal, informal, and so on and so forth. That is what it is all about. Yeah, a very comprehensive document, I think, and I'm quite happy and proud to share this with anybody else that talks about changing education into a new learning space as such. This is again in line with what is happening globally. Yeah, some of you may not like the word UNESCO, United Nations. That's fine, but the world is changing around us. People are redefining education. There'll be a big meeting in Berlin in May this year, where they want to look at what is education moving forward. Whether we like it or not, they will go on talking. Whether we endorse it or not, they will pass resolution. Whether we want to be part of it or not, we will finally be forced to accept this, because at the end of the day, we are part of the global network. Yeah. Now, rather than having forced to do this, you might as well want to participate and tell them at that point in time, this is what we think. And after all, we have got the many things to offer. Yeah, that is the stage that I want you to take on, so that we can be represented at least as a university in Malaysia, if not an Islamic world, to tell exactly what we think about the future of education, just as much as what we think on sustainable development, rather than keeping quiet and say we have nothing to say and then later on complain, but we might as well go there. Yeah, back to the ayat, I hope that this is a space that we need to move. We are not the weak and the oppressed yet, right? But the moment you don't do this, then we certainly be weaker and more oppressed, because they are putting all these other things on us. Whether we like it or not, we are forced to do it because we want to remain global in that particular sense. Yeah. So the world is moving, and the statements that they come always is the world we want. That will be the theme. What is the world that you want? And therefore, what is the education that shapes the world? Yeah. So if you want a world of rahmatan lil alamin, then you need to put your 2 cents worth how to make that world rahmatan lil alamin rather than Eurocentric or Western-centric or what have you. And that is where I think our new role will be in trying to redefine what the future is all about. Yeah. from my point of view, it is very personal because I've been working on this for quite a while. The world that we have got now is what I call the weird world. Some of you must have heard of this. Yeah, I've written a little bit of this, and my friends in Europe are also intrigued why I say so. But I get my points like this. I think in the westernized world, not the westernized world in the sense that they come from the West. In the westernized world, I defined it after the Industrial Revolution of 1700s, yeah, where everything is turned into a kind of a mass production, and we then becomes another factory that mass produce a so-called human capital or whatever labor that you want to talk about, right? Then these are all decided by economists, economic centric, and you can see them now. When the moment the World Economic Forum bersidang di Davos, they will say things, and finally kita terpaksa implement. The fourth industrial revolution is one, right? And that is in essence what it is. Yeah, yang pakai baju putih itu is me, Faris, Arni, all this. Yeah, Anusi dia kerja dia tak tahu, angkat bag kot. Yeah, but the one on the sliding the carousel tu are the products. That could be our student. Yeah, they're all the same. They're almost lifeless. They are produced by mindless people like us. Yeah, tell them what they very stereotype, robotic like. I think Zarina wrote another article baru ni in response to Tajuddin Rasdi punya work. Yeah, this is what we are, and we think this is education. We gave them a piece of paper, and that the piece of paper is useless when COVID comes in, and they cannot do anything else, right? And this is a challenge that I think we need to look. And the industry keep telling us what to do. Yeah, and they say we will provide you with an employment, and therefore you better perform. Soft skill lah, itulah, inilah. But then when COVID comes in, they close down. Yeah, after telling us so many things, and they close down and say no employment. You look after yourself. And I think this is not a way to work with a responsible organization. So we need to rethink whether the industry is reliable, or some industries may be reliable, some may be not. And the one that is fly by night, I think we should just throw them away. All right. So we need to make these decisions based on whatever we believe and whatever we think is important. We need to make decisions. We need to tell this to the world. We need to find a forum. We need to be there to tell it out. And are we ready for this? And that is the new learning environment that you want to talk about. Yeah. We are talking about reputation, and I'm nothing wrong with the reputation, but what does reputation represent? Yeah, if you're number one in a ranking that is sponsored by industry, what does it mean to us? We spend thousands of dollars to make these numbers, but what does it mean to us? We are still working like this, then I think we can forget about the ranking, and that's why we are trying to redefine what we are in this particular. And the end of the day is about dehumanizing. We are all reduced to numbers. Yeah, if you don't perform, then I think out you go, and you have finally got these numbers, and we are almost like a prisoner by these numbers. You don't meet these numbers, out you go. So my own thinking is this weird world is what we don't want, and we're going to throw this out of the window. I'm going to throw it out of the window. But what do we do with this? And kadang-kadang kita criticize dia, but what is the model that we're going to create? I think this is a learning experience that we have got. And that's why I'm very excited to see what's happening with UNGAS 1201. I think we can dwell into it better, right? So for the sake of argument, yeah, I will say now let's move and change this weird into what we call wiser. After all, Homo sapiens is called the wise one. Yeah? Where are we wise in that particular sense? The wiser for me is basically we need to talk about holistic education, not just Western, not just dominant. We all want to talk about Eastern, we want to talk about indigenous, we want to talk about religious, all the things that have been missed out. And I think Prof. Khairuddin yesterday said it well. And the moral part of it, the family ties, religious values, these are part of the wholesome thing that we want to bring back in the context of kita punya education system. Yeah, it has to be inclusive. In other words, not just one group, but many groups that share, and this is a platform that we created. I think we are moving into this direction. We want it to be sustainable. In other words, it lasts over a period of time. It is not a flash in the pan. Kali ni orang tukar, besok World Forum talks about nanti kita tukar lagi. There's no consistency in this. All right, you have to be equitable. I think the problem that we see in the United States, we thought it is a democratic country, equitability, justice, and suddenly we find it's not there. And how do we now bring this about from the Islamic sense? And finally, the resiliency. In others, when you're faced with a challenge like COVID, how do you bounce back? Rather than abandoning the system, talking about new normal and forgetting about the old, I think how do you bounce back and bring the real new normal? And that is the argument that I have when I use this word wiser. Yeah. So this wiser thing is not only the minds, but also the heart. Yeah. Not heart in a spiritual sense, not only the heart, but also the emotion and the physical thing. The four elements that is mentioned in falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan. Rohani, jasmani, emosi, dan juga intellect. Right? And this is where I think we translate the word S into sejahtera. And people keep on asking, kenapa pakai sejahtera sekarang ni? Dulu tak ada sejahtera pun. The sejahtera comes from the falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan, that's it. That is the original. It's not because the rector is crazy and they want to put some words so that it will last in this university. No, there is a reason for it. It comes from the word sejahtera, and dalam falsafah pendidikan sejahtera, we have got a book for it. If you want to read it, you're most welcome. I can lend you one. But dia kata falsafah pendidikan mengatakan bahawa pelajar-pelajar yang keluar daripada sistem pendidikan kita mesti sejahtera dirinya. How do you assure the sejahtera dirinya? And this is the work that we need to do. At the end of the day, when our students pass the convocation, we are not going to ask whether they get employed or employable, but we're going to ask sejahtera tak di budak-budak. Will this be the crux of the day or will be the hero of the day? Yeah. From what we notice, the number of crooks from the white collar punya sector is increasing. Yeah, it could be a known politician, it could be a good businessman. This comes from our universities. So the word that we need to ask is sejahtera ataupun tidak. What is sejahtera? If you cannot define the sejahtera, we can never answer this question, and therefore we are irrelevant as far as the falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan is all about. But that is about the only thing why the word sejahtera is important. Alhamdulillah, Professor Kamal has interpreted it from the Islamic point of view and say the closest word to sejahtera is al-falah, if I'm not mistaken. There you are. There's another way of interpreting it. So this is the argument that intellectual institutions like this should go into, rather than just say, no, we have enough of this. We want to go back to our own way of doing things and be comfortable with it. I think we will not make any advances on this, right? So very clear, it has to be balanced. And then we've got this insan that we talk about, insan kamil ke, insan sejahtera ke, insan seimbang ke, whatever it is. But that insan is that role model that Islam wants us to be. And that's the leadership that we want to create, giving out of this education system that we talked about. Yeah. So I've made this argument to my colleagues, and on the 22nd, I've been asked to talk in another conference in York University, and we'll see how it goes on that one. So the resiliency, maknanya these four things can make us bounce back. We don't talk about suicide, we don't talk about anything negative. How do you positively move and recreate once we are down? Yeah, rather than just giving up and say, look, I want to now leave the world because I cannot tolerate it anymore, right? So then we need to go into what will be the future. If you want to bounce back, where do you bounce? You may bounce into a different world that may not be good. So we hired a person. We talk about what the future looks like. Yeah, we learn how we can quote unquote methodologically go in town. These are the system. I think you must have heard. We have got the scenario plan workshop tiga hari. We have completed it, but we are still wanting to share it with you. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Yeah. Meanwhile, what we want to do now is to integrate the whole stuff. Initially, I was talking about how to integrate almost horizontally, the kuliahs, the centers, how horizontally. We also now want to integrate vertically. Yeah, Maknanya from bawah, the enabling system right down to the rector's office, how do you work together? And alhamdulillah, we have come up with this model, thanks to OSIC, this nice diagram to show where the stacks is. In other words, if you don't have the ecosystem, you will not arrive at the humanizing education. If you don't have, you have the ecosystem, you don't have the high impact initiative, you will not do that. You don't have the other level with a strategic focus, we will not be able. So it has to be cascading one to another, or rather moving up one to another. How do you make this happen? And I just want to explain this very quickly. This one, another one that is borrowed from a development office. I changed a little bit. Sorry, Dato' Dato' Ilmi, I tukar topeng you in tengah-tengah tu. So that it looks slightly different. We need to work on the outcomes. The outcomes are quite clear. Balanced graduate, balanced staff. The society, the community must be about wellness, well-being. Yeah? We must be creating values all the time, be positive about it, and therefore the institution remains stable. All right? And that stability is the one that allows us to work. There's no, this coronavirus is a physical one, and sometimes the emotional one. Yeah, the gossips, the media. That's why I say shut up. If you have nothing to say, just shut up, because you don't want to destabilize the institution, right? The focus areas, you want to look at what Prof. Faris now is trying to do internationally, culturally, and experientially. How do you bring this to bear? Not just academically, but no cultural dimension and no experience. This is where the community engagement, community transformation comes in. RRI is quite definite. Hafiz is quite clear on what he needs to do. How do you make this global relevance? In other words, the academic program we've got, the research program we've got, does it answer some global needs? Again, Professor Khairuddin says this. Yeah? We have not produced anything, the Islamic world has not produced anything, kata dia lah, if I'm not mistaken, that is relevant to the world. And he gave a very embarrassing example of we tried to, I cannot remember this, they tried to create an Islamic car. Right? I cannot remember it, but I hope it's not true. But that Islamic car pun doesn't appear. Kalau ada Islamic car, I wonder what it looks like. Mungkin dia just jalan mengikut kiblat je kot. Dia tak boleh pona. Things like that. Now, I mean, these are issues that people are poking fun at us because we have not contributed anything relevant to the world. We just think that it is something that we need to do, but how do you make it relevant to the world, and how do you explain this to other people is a question that we need to ask. Yeah, high touch community engagement, that is a focus area that we talked about. The high impact initiative, the Insan Sejahtera, spirituality, value creation. We bring in the word Budiman because there's a lot of Budi here. We've got Wadi Budi, we've got Akhir Budi, we've got Taman Budi. But who delivers this? The Budiman must deliver this. Yeah, you have the Budi and then nobody delivers it, and it's remain dead. It becomes a building, it becomes something which is, so who is the Budiman? It's us. And dalam Dewan Bahasa punya definition, Budiman adalah insan perkasa dan bijaksana. In other words, we are wise and also courageous. I think these are the two values that is not talked about in our education system. We are neither wise nor courageous. Yeah? And these are the two things that I think will be needed to make the change. If you are not wise, neither are you courageous, then the change will not come. Yeah? We keep on hiding under the table because we don't want to be, to be identified for whatever reason it is, right? Sejahtera academic framework, I mentioned it to you. Dia kata mercy to all, rahmatan lil alamin, and beautifying the garden of knowledge and virtues. That will be the impact that we will reap out of this. And the enablers will be the competent leaders, the knowledge collectivity, the knowledge management that we talked about, yeah, the ecosystem that is stable, all right, and clean, and also the equitable prosperity. In other words, there is no overt discrimination or disparities among us, or we are dealing with more than 100 countries. We need to treat people equally, Malaysian, non-Malaysian, gender, and sebagainya, all those things. So that is what it is. And I think to be a little bit more graphic on this, That is where IIUM is. Yeah. So we work on the 4 elements. When we talk about tadi tu, dia punya focus tu, one is how do we remain international, but also taking on the cultural dimension. The 100 of nations here, what is the cultural contribution to the university, right? Because vision number 6 in IIUM talks about intercultural dialogue. Has the dialogue been done and has it benefited us one way or another? Yeah. Why the Ummati Week dulu lah, I think now dah tak ada ya. Only for the foreigners. Malaysian tak masuk the Ummati Week. Dia ada pula the weeknya sendiri. Are we not part of the Ummah? Yeah. Why does this kind of dislocation happen? It doesn't sound good to me. Umat kita sekali lah. Or maybe our stall is small, but never mind, but we are part of it. How do you put this thing in place? Yeah? And the experience that we talked about. Increasingly, we need to get people to learn from other people, learning by doing rather than just learning by reading or whatever it is. That's the kind of dimension that we talk about. This high-touch community, how do you go to the community? By understanding the antar student kita kepada industri, they know. Dia pakai tie lah, dia pakai socks lah, dia pakai jaket lah. Tak ada jaket pun dipinjam orang punya. Dia kena pakai juga benda tu. Kalau tidak, dia kata, be kicked out of the industry. But when they go to the kampung, what do they wear? How do they wish these people? Yeah? Have we taught them the adab masuk kampung lah? Jangan kita jadi masuk kampung macam usaha masuk kampung. Right? Because the adab di kampung sama juga dengan industri, but it takes a different dimension. Our students sensitive to this. Yeah? Especially when you go to the orang asli in the community, different group of people, how we teach them to get in touch with this community. Those are issues that I think. So when Faris and Zul works together, then hopefully we'll get this balanced graduate and staff. Yeah, these are the learning things. So Zul punya area is also about educating the student, not just running activities, but also educating the students and be part of that experiential learning that we talked about. So now that's why I'm saying at this level also we need to integrate, not just the kuliah. The office of deputy rectors need to integrate. The office of the executive directors also need to integrate. Yeah. At the end of the day, we hope we can create this beautiful gardens of knowledge and virtues in a very experiential sense rather than just the academic sense. Same thing that we can argue. Yeah. They do research and together the research also involve the culture, the experiential learning and so on and so forth. This is between Hafiz dengan Faris, yeah? And then we can create a very stable institution because we know what we are going into based on the Sejahtera academic framework for Rahmatan lil Alamin. The target is clear, the setting is clear, and what needs to be done is also clear. So these arguments, I will not belabor on it. We will talk about it as we go along. Although we don't have a DR on global relevance and citizenship, we still think this is an important thing, and this is where now the global relevance dengan high touch, in other words, whatever is done in the university, in the local setting, can it be transported into another country globally? Yeah. Now, for example, give you a real example, we are working with the Rohingyas. We are trying to develop a school in Sungai Ula in Kuantan. Yeah. And if that school works, can we transform this school in other places where the Rohingyas are? And we're working with a group of friends in Netherlands and London. They said the moment you do a template school, let's try and duplicate it in London and Netherlands. Already there's a platform. But we need to have the school. We don't have the school, then we're not talking the way we are supposed to work, right? So let's create the school. And that's where the global relevance comes in. And that's where the whole idea of how do you then embed this the insan sejahtera, the spirituality, the value base in that school. So that school becomes a different school as we move forward. Yeah. So same thing here. Yeah. Values creation, the Buddhiman, and so on and so forth. So this is the integrating model. You can see now how people are going to work together, new ways of working, but nevertheless, it is what we want to do so that then the humanizing education to Maqasid and SDG becomes a real thing. Yeah. Now, moving forward, what is the kata-katakan tadi itu, the enablers? You need competent leaders, right? And the competent leaders must come within the ambit of the IIUM vision and the 7 missions. Yeah? And the 7 missions will cover the triple ICE, I can tell you that. Yeah? And we've got other things. The FAST means Fatana, Amanah, Sadiq, and Tabligh, yeah? Which is the traits of the Prophet's leadership, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and leading the way, and of course, Khair as part and parcel of our tagline, right? And then how do you connect? Then the other competency, the leaders needs to have this knowledge connectivity, not only in terms of IT, but also in terms of human being and so on and so forth. And that's the whole upper gamut of leadership. How do you train this new leadership within this university, right? And that competent leaders must also understand what this equitable prosperity is all about. Not just results, but also relationship. Sometimes the result is good, but the relationship is lousy. Okay? Here is about relationship. How can we live like a family? How can we share the result at the same time? So there is a sharing of so many things, and we nurture this balance in terms of leadership. Yeah? And that's what the equitable prosperity is all about. We talk about equitable prosperity in the context of also the sustainable ecosystem. All right? So the connectivity is there, the ecosystem is there, and the ecosystem is defined in 3 things. We talk about inclusivity, includes gender, includes OKU, includes all the animals, this cat shelter that we talked about, and in many other things that we want to include in our ecosystem. Yeah, indigeneity maknanya we are talking about this indigenous population, the orang asli and whatever else that there is around us, which is indigenous to this place. And remember, we came here; they were here before. Then we come here, kita tak boleh sepak dia keluar je. They need to take into account and how do you then bring them into this. And of course, we have talked about the intangibility, not just the KPI, but also the KIP. And this will then define what the strategic initiative is all about. So that is roughly what we are trying to work. And this, I think, needs to be crystallized. And then we will take it to the kuliah and discuss at your level what this means to you at the kuliah level, so that finally we will come to this humanizing education in real terms, not just on a piece of paper. I just want to basically go back to the 7 mission, because some of you may be asking, mana 7 mission? We are not used to the 7 mission, but lo and behold, there is a 7 mission. This was, I think, crafted in 1995 by Professor Kamal himself when he was a rector, and he talks about the 7 mission, which I will summarize. 1 is about integrated knowledge, yeah. So we talk about integration. Number 2 is about sustainable development. We were very pleasantly surprised, and it talks about change in a comprehensive, balanced way. Then we talk about Islamization. Okay, they're still there. Then we talk about another one, Islamic moral and spiritual values, which is number 4. We talk about number 5, internationalization. So they say. So the 3 triple IC is there. Don't have to worry about it. We talk about number 6, in the intercultural understanding, and number 7, I thought, which is the most important, the deep sense of social responsibility. So as you move into social work, it is part of social responsibility, although we don't get grades or marks or whatever it is. So if I go back to number 2, since we are talking about sustainable development will have to talk to number 1. Yeah. Sustainable development is all about transdisciplinarity and therefore about integration of knowledge. Yeah. Yesterday, the whole discussion on Islamic thought and SDG talk about how do you Islamize sustainable development, and the models that Professor Aziz gave, the model that the definition that Prof. Kamal gave is all about how do you Islamize it, right? So it is there. We talk about international community. Certainly, the ambit or the platform of sustainable development is international. In fact, beyond that, is also global, right? Of course, intercultural understanding is certainly there when you talk about different cultures of how we understand sustainable development. And finally, it's about responsibility again. How do we look after the things that God has given us in the context of the resources, preserving the planet, and so on and so forth, that we have also articulated. Yeah. So If you want to summarize this, it will be to me 5I and SR. 5R2 is integration, Islamization, what you call internationalization. We also have this intercultural understanding, and also the Islamic moral, spiritual values. And this R is sustainable development. The other R is about social responsibility. Yeah, very comprehensive in that sense. So it has to be done on the community as a service, perhaps. Service ni macam kita suruh student lah. You go and clean the toilet, they will clean the toilet. You go and cut the grass, they will cut the grass. As a service. But it will be dead. After cutting the grass, they balik, the grass will grow again. Yeah. After cleaning the toilet, they will use the toilet will be dirty again. And that's where the idea of engagement comes in. In other words, it will stay on for a longer time. Yeah, when we engage the population knows after kita potong rumput, dia pun tahu kau potong rumput. They don't have to depend on us. Right? But that's about the only thing. Then the other one is about transforming. Do all the activities that we do at the end of the day transform the community. Yeah, Dato' Hamidun talks about this well in his Murabi talk di sini. I picked this up from him. There is 3 levels. We have been talking about services. Sometimes they call it social services, the community services. We have talked about engagement, but we want to talk a little bit more on transformation. Maknanya the society can remain on their own and look after themselves as a self-sufficient sort of community. So these are the areas that we need to work on and redefine some of these things, and how there's a 7 mission become articulated. So whatever you do now in the university, I would ask you, which mission are you trying to fulfill? Yeah, kita nak buat ABC, okay. Which mission are you trying to fulfill? If you say no mission, I say sorry very much. You can take this away, because we don't have time to work on something which is not fruitful to the university given the condition we are. So you need to train your mind now and say what are the missions that you are looking at and how do you realize it at the moment in time. Okay, these are the details of it. I just summarize it. If you want to look at the details, you want to look at the details. The mission of the university, as per now, will be for the betterment of human life and civilization. The rest are just the preamble, perhaps. If you need to remember, you just remember these 6 or 7 words. Yeah? For the betterment of human life and civilization. And I think, again, it remains very unique for IIUM. So let me just finish by talking about the future scenario. Kita dah ada 3 hari tu. I think in the midst of the COVID, we did this quite well. I thought face-to-face and also using the Zoom. We've got 4 groups, and the 4 groups now has come up with their own scenarios. Yeah, I think I remember one scenario is no change scenario. The second scenario is marginal change scenario. The third change is adaptive scenarios. And the 4th one is radical scenarios. Yeah? No change maknanya we'll remain in our comfort zone lah. Macam orang lari ke belakang tadi. We'll just come to work, and basically do whatever we need to do for the last 35 years. But that scenario say if you do that, then this place will collapse. It will be, dia kata, if I'm mistaken, the museum of yesterday. Orang akan datang, oh di sini rupanya macam Mimaland. I remember Mimaland. Mimaland doesn't change. Now where is Mimaland now? Yeah, I don't know where Mimaland. It used to be nice, that place. We could be another Mimaland. Could be IIUM land kot. People will look, oh ini rupanya tempat rektor dulu. This rector must be very lazy because nothing has changed. I don't want my name to be affected that way. We want to make some change. But what sort of change? And the first change is marginal change. Marginal change ni maknanya just yang terdaya je lah. Yeah? Kalau dia dulu hitam, kan kita cat putih. It's a change lah tu. Yeah? Macam kita dye rambut. Rambut putih, dye hitam. Change lah tu. Ataupun rambut hitam, dye kuning. Ada juga change. But the hair is still the same. Nothing has substantially. Just like when I talk to youngsters, what has changed now? No, we have done we have done online shopping. But shopping juga. Yeah. Nothing has changed actually. The money flows out, sometimes flows even more when you do online change. Nothing substantial has happened. So that is marginal change. Up to us whether we want that change. The other one is adaptive change. Maknanya, okay, we want to adapt. This is not Islamic entirely, therefore we want to adapt and put Islamic aspiration, worldview, and make it happen that way. We're still within the ambit of umatan wasatan. We are not extreme in that sense. How do you make this adaptive change? What is it that we want to adapt, and how are we going to adapt? That's the third scenario. And the fourth scenario is certainly a radical scenario, because sometimes we need to force it through. Dalam konteks yang misalnya Islam diketepikan langsung, we want to forcefully say this is what we are for. Yeah? In the context of justice, in the context of amanah, there's no compromise on this. We cannot compromise on it, and this is where I think the radical changes. So these four scenarios now, it's been going to be written. Hopefully by the end of this month, there'll be a monograph, at least an online monograph, for all of you to read, so that you can also make comments. We are quite mindful bila kita buat the scenario plan. We are able only to deal with 30 to 40 people, because that's the requirement of the facilitator. Dia kata more than 40 would be dysfunctional. But what we have done, we have taken people from across the board, the senior management, the students involved, people from different departments, the genders, all are there. We try to be as representative as possible. But their ideas now is your ideas for you to comment. So hopefully the monograph will come out, and that monograph will be shared, and we will comment it before we officially come up to what is the preferred scenario. Preferred scenario, we have not talked about it. After discussing with everybody else, then we can come to a consensus what the preferred scenario looks like, so that everybody has got a say of what the university is going to be. Not just a few people, or not just a group of people, but everybody has got a say. So this way, this gambar here just tells you that, in the past where we were, in the present where we were, in the future now. Here dia kata ada 5 scenario, kita ada 4, mungkin kita ada 4. The 5 scenario will be the preferred scenario lah. So we will then how we will manage this as we discussed it. That will be the next agenda that we want to look at. Yeah. So if I can say so myself, that clapping too is I'm the one that's clapping. Yeah, I'm very happy. You don't want to clap, that's okay. But I think I have seen that we can work together. We have fulfilled so many things that we aspired for, sometimes beyond expectation. And the key is working together and no more, right? But that is history now. We want to look at the year 2021, 2022, and that is the new run. Remember that stadium that I talked to you about? Yeah, that probably is the back to, could be any one of us. We want to start running now from today onwards until the year 2022 for the next 2 years. What is it that we want to do? All right, and this I think we have. I think we need to begin the conversation. Yeah, we want to go do a town hall to all kuliah. We want to make sure that everybody is engaged to talk about at least 5 or 4 things. One is the SAF, the Sejahtera Academic Framework. Yeah. One is the whole agenda of Sejahtera, and the roadmap. The other one is the context of sustainable development, the flagship. What are the new flagship that you think you want to put forth that we can work on? And the last one, of course, the preferred scenario. Yeah. So as it stands now, there will be a team of people who knows this from cover to cover. They will give a presentation, and then we have that discussion, and all that discussion will be collected before we come and arrive at it. So we have earmarked the whole of the first 6 months until June, right? So that we can have discussion. So by July, we can collate all this and say, look, this will be the roadmap for the year 2021 to 2022. Meanwhile, the work goes on, whatever that needs to be carried on, we will carry it on for the next 6 months. Yeah. So that is the general view. But I just want to keep in mind also the year 2023 is the 40th anniversary of the university, and 40 dalam Islam has a lot of meaning. So as we talk about 2022, please also cast your mind to 2023. In 2023, how can we make this university shine? Yeah, because we missed this 40 years, and I think that's about it. So how do you make this university shine? And I think that's all that we need to think about, right? So I'm going to end, but I want to just visit another statement. This comes from the amanah of the minister. Dia cakap dan dia mengatakan bahawa the last part dia kata paragraf dia on melangkah ke hadapan. Melangkah ke hadapan tu dia talk about 5S. 5S tu are all in English: speed, synergy, solidarity, strategic and standard. So I thought melangkah ke hadapan tu is moving forward lah. I think she's right. Dia kata melangkah ke hadapan, we need to move things in a speedily manner, using technology and so on, which we are trying to do. Kita ada speed, kita ada fast. Kita punya fast lebih better than speed, because ours is based on the Prophet's traits, right? So we're not losing there. Dia ada synergy, kita ada what do you call this platform, How do we work together? He's talking about working together. Alhamdulillah, we also have been working together. In fact, we have got examples how this working together works. Solidarity, we have been talking about solidarity also when we talk about physical distancing with social bonding. It's about solidarity. We are there, so I'm not worried. Strategic, certainly, I hope we are strategic. And standard is we are creating our own standards. In other words, the KPI, the TIP, the new APA, and so on and so forth is a standard that we're going to adopt to. So she talks about this, and I think we will articulate on this a little bit more, just to show that we have taken some of the ideas and it is relevant to us. But to me, it is not sufficient because there's no closure to this. Rather, you speed where you're speeding and how long do you want to speed? I mean, you cannot be speeding all the time. You need to slow down sometime. How do you work on this? So I want to add another 4S for us. One is the framework that we need to talk about. The 5S that the minister wants is within the framework of SAF. Sejahtera Academic Framework is the framework of synergy, of solidarity, of standards, and also of what's the other one? Strategy. So that is the framework. Otherwise, we will be running like a chicken without a head. So that is the framework, and I think that's why we need to understand what SAF is all about. We want to talk about sustainability as another dimension, because that has been our forte. And if you want to move globally, I think we need to take this agenda. And I'm sad to say that the ministry has not articulated that. There's no SDG at all dalam speechnya. Dalam speechnya, there's not there. So we want to remind the ministry that there is a global agenda that education must take on, education for sustainable development. Sejahtera, there is a word in her speech mengatakan memperkasakan kesejahteraan community. But what is sejahtera is not defined. So I think it's our role now to tell how do you actually achieve kesejahteraan community, and indeed all the things that we talk about, community engagement and transformation is a demonstration of kesejahteraan community that we talked about. And last but not least is scenarios. When we talk melangkah ke hadapan, ke mana kita nak melangkah? Kadang-kadang kita melangkah ke hadapan, kita masuk lubuk because we don't know where we are heading. So in our case, alhamdulillah, we've got the 4 scenarios. We're going to concretize it. We hope we will have the preferred scenario in 6 months' time, and then we know where we're going to have. So kita ada 9 lah. Kita ada 9, 5 daripada kementerian, 4 kita punya original, and we're going to close the loop in trying to make what the action plan is all about. All right. So I would like to thank you. Sorry it takes a longer time. Selalunya tambahlah duduk ni lagi seronok cakap. Berdiri tu rasa penat juga. So I would like to thank you. I don't know how to thank you, honestly. And I wish I'm a millionaire that I can buy you 1 car each and give you this number 11 UM. But I don't have that. So we just make doa insyaAllah atas kesetiaan, keikhlasan and all those things that we have given the industry I think we have reaped the benefit one way or another. Yeah. But despite that, there's still a small minority that always send me some email and say this. Yeah. Why you no invite me? I want to help, but why I'm not invited? I want to make it clear that nobody is going to invite anybody. This is our university. If you think you can contribute, volunteer yourself and say, I want to do this. Yeah. And Lan has done that for me. I will told Lan, I had problem with hantar makalah kepada IIUM berhujah. Kita hantar kadang-kadang dia print. Kita tak hantar, dia tak print kadang-kadang. Sakit hati. Kita dah tulis lah. We spend nights to write about this. Then Lan kata, let me do it. Now every week keluar. Ni kita ada berapa lagi on the queue, Lan? Maknanya half the year dah covered. Yeah. So I think when we can help, come and volunteer. You don't expect anybody to invite you. I certainly will not invite you. If you want to come, you come and work with us. Yeah. We certainly welcome you, and I also got a welcoming sign here. Welcome. Yeah, maybe we put this welcome sign dekat luar. This is the way in. Yeah, if you don't know where the way in, this is my room. You can come in and knock on my door. If you don't want to knock on my door, you can knock on my email. I will inshallah respond to it. Yeah, but we need everybody on board. Yeah, we need everybody on board. But you must have that now, the positive thinking. Yeah. All this negative thinking, kalau ada, please put it aside, because it will just drag us down. We have to fight with you on things that if you don't agree with us, fine, but let's be open about it. Yeah, whispering by the corridor, at the canteen, in the toilet will not do anybody any good. But we need to be open. After all, this is university. You disagree, you say you disagree. As long as you tell me why you disagree, I will accept it. Yeah. But you cannot say, I disagree because I don't like your nose. I'm sorry, the nose is given to me by God. You know, unless you give me, I don't like the nose, this is money, go and do plastic surgery, I'll take it. But if you say you don't like my nose, I'm sorry, I will not listen to that. Yeah. So please be academically, tolerant on this. I think this is how only the university works. Yeah. But yesterday I also learned from Professor Aziz Bagou. Dia quote Einstein, and for the first time I heard it and I copied it very quickly, and I think it's a good reminder by Einstein. Einstein has gone through many things, I'm sure, and Einstein has got a lot of other people saying ini betul, ini tak betul, and Einstein has got this quote which I think I will share with you, a friendly reminder. Dia kata, if you need to stay away from negative people or negative thoughts. Why? They have a problem for every solution. We want a solution for every problem. We don't want a problem for every solution. Yeah. So for those of you who have a problem for every solution, if you think you are not going to contribute, that's fine. But please don't make it difficult for us. Yeah. We want to find a solution for every problem, and we have a problem for every solution. I think you need to talk to Einstein. I will not be able to deal with you on this one. Right. So on that note, brothers and sisters, thank you for listening to me. I rattle off this very quickly. As I've mentioned, I've taken a lot of ideas from everybody else, and I hope this will be a reflection point for you. I'm sure many of you will disagree on certain things, but if you disagree, you are welcome to talk to me about it or to my colleagues about it, so that when we come and make the final decision, we take you on board, and we also give you, the due platform to say what you need. Yeah. So terima kasih banyak. Maybe we end with this. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hopefully we can be more forceful to repeat what we have done, and inshallah we all make doa. Unfortunately, there's no sembahyang Jumaat hari ni. Ada sembahyang Jumaat, tak ada, ya? But we'll do our own prayer and make our own doa, insyaAllah. So, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Tan Sri, for the inspiring address, reminding us of our moral responsibilities. And now let us take up the challenge mentioned and carry the baton of achievements and amanah handed by the Rector in the right direction.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, we are now approaching the end of our program this morning. I would therefore like to invite Ustaz Abdul bin Jalil again to recite the dua.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وله الحمد في الآخرة وهو الحكيم الخبير والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم أنت ربنا لا إله إلا أنت خلقتنا ونحن عبادك ونحن على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعنا نعوذ بك من شر ما صنعنا نبوء لك بنعمتك علينا ونبوء بذنوبنا فاغفر لنا فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. Almighty Allah, Lord of mercy and beneficent, bless this liqa with your pleasure and mercy. O Allah, Lord of bounties and infinite, shower upon us your divine guidance, that our work and deeds be done in completeness and excellence. Assist us, O Allah, in fulfilling our obligation and seeking your pleasure. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه ونستغفرك لما لا نعلمه نعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق اللهم يا فتاح يا عليم. Ya Allah, kami berlindung kepadamu dari menyekutukanmu dengan sesuatu yang kami ketahui, dan kami memohon ampun dari menyekutukanmu dengan sesuatu yang kami tidak ketahui. Ya Allah, kekalkanlah kami dalam melaksanakan ketaatan kepadamu dan jauhkanlah kami dari melakukan kemaksiatan dan dosa. Allahumma ja'al khaira a'marina akhiruhu wa khaira a'malina khawatimuhu wa khaira ayyamina yawma alqaka fih. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل اللهم فينا ولا معنا ولا من يتبعنا شقيا ولا مطرودا ولا محروما. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Shukran jazilan, Ustaz. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, before we end, on behalf of the organizer, I would like to thank Honorable Tan Sri Rector for your presence this morning. May this year brings new goal, new achievements and new inspirations for us to work harder for the betterment of IIUM and the Ummah, inshallah. Observe physical distancing with social bonding, stay safe, and to lead for peace. Jazakallah khairan kathiran. Salam.
Thank you so much. Lagu kan? Lagu UIA. Yeah, going to shut up.
light in the future. Share the wisdom to the spirit of Islam. Revelation and reason. We shall excel, we shall prevail. Merging faith and knowledge, we, the Khalifa, we will fulfill the Amana. Together we make the world a better place. Forever expand the culture of Iqra. IIUM is to realize the meaning of Ramadan lil Alamin. Together we make the world a better place. Forever expand the culture of Iqra. IIUM is to realize the meaning of mercy to all the world, for all mankind.